go out there, find that whatever truly makes you happy. Aside from that, you have to understand the game that we operate in, which is real estate, because that's going to allow you to have, let's say, if you want to paint roses, or if it's canvas painting or if it's playing the ukulele or the guitar or whatever, I'm all good about it. But is it going to pay your bills? Is it going to provide for your future and your family? And if it's not, then you got to understand the real estate game, because that's where we operate.
Yeah.
And that's going to pay for your lifestyle. That's going to build your wealth. That's going to pay for your lifestyle. So regardless, you're going to be a real estate investor, and you have to know that space. You have to know it. You have to understand it, because that would allow you to do whatever the heck you want to do.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Welcome to the Not Genius Podcast. Today we got Memo all the way from San Diego here, and I'm super excited because we're at CG. This is where we go 3 times a year, and we meet incredible human beings, connect with, some really, really bright, brilliant people, and just try to be a sponge and learn from them.
Right on. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, before we start, this guy is super humble. It's funny, the more I talk to him, the more I realize, like, every day he's just super legit, but he's like just
Nonchalant.
they're nonchalant, like helping people out like you would never know. So thank you for that, bro.
Dude, our food couldn't have been that bad if you're coming back for round 2, you know what I mean?
No, that's a blessing. Yeah, food's been always great, dude. It's always a good
I
meal.
appreciate last time that we were at CG, you were our guest, and
Yeah, that was cool.
We had great conversation. We hung out there for like 3 hours, and I was like, dang, we lost track of the time. It's like, I just love spending time around you because you're super positive. You have a great smile.
Thanks.
Yeah, and it's just like you're very magnetic in your personality. People just want to be around you.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah, cool.
love
Right
that,
on,
man.
dude.
I love that about you, bro.
Yeah.
Right on. No, I appreciate you guys having me on here. It, the cool thing about our business, obviously we function to make money, but the relationships, adding to people, in any capacity, that's really cool. It's what makes life, exciting, rewarding, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, if you could tell us a little bit about how you got started, I guess where you grew up, and then how you got into business, and a little bit about where you're at now.
Yeah, definitely. So, born and raised in San Diego, so I'm a local San Diegan. Parents were immigrants from Mexico. I currently live in Coronado, which is like a little island there in the Bay of San Diego. And I grew up across the bridge on the other side, which is called Barrio Logan. It's, now it's being gentrified. Back in the days, it was, heavy, gang violence, the crack epidemic really had hit that neighborhood hard. So, I got fond memories, because, I joke around because I remember we had bars, right? And many times we had a bat next to the corner of the house, like in our bedroom, because we would turn on the light and there was always a hand of someone trying to steal our stuff through the bars.
The heck?
Yeah. So we would run and get the bat and hit the hand, so that
It's
they
like
would
real life whack-a-mole.
Yeah, it literally was, because you couldn't leave anything by your nightstand or by your bed because they would take it. They would steal it, So, memories like that, now I just chuckle about them. Like, dude, it's so, like, it's funny, dude,
That's crazy.
Like, we had in our backyard, we had a little stool where we had to sit, because when you did laundry, they would steal your laundry off the clotheslines.
No way.
Like, yeah, because they was, like, literally, you would see, like, the dude, gangster walking around with, like, surfboard, shorts. And you're like, dude, I just bought those, I had saved so much to buy them. And, like, that cholo's, like, those aren't his, what I mean? Like, those are my shorts, or like our Christmas, all that story. So, it's really cool. It brings, for me, it gives me a nice warm feeling. It's like, dude, that it's a blessing to have the adversity, in a childhood.
Mm-hmm.
It makes who you are. The adversity gives you gratitude, and the gratitude is the essence of happiness, right? That's what makes us happy. It's like we're grateful for whatever we have at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a future tense. It's a present tense. So it's cool. So that's where I started out as a kid. The real estate, I got in it like in 2004, 5. Right before the market crashed. I had at that point some like check cashing payday loan company that I was operating in there in San Diego. I saw the market getting ready to crash, so I sold that company to a big competitor, and then I went all in on real estate. My lack of preparedness, probably cost me $100 million at least. You
What?
know, yeah, because by 2007 through 10, the market had crashed 70, 80, 60%, and when you're in the business, you start seeing opportunity, and I was seeing opportunities at cents, 2-3 cents on the dollar, and at the moment when the markets adjust, cash dries up. Like
There's no credit.
there's just no liquidity. Whatever money you have, you're holding on to it. There's fear out there. There's blood on the street. So it's a different mindset. So I've sold so many properties that were like 17,000, 27, 30, 40 something. 3-bedroom houses that are
This
right
is
now worth
SD?
San Diego. Yeah, they're worth right now like 1.1, 1.2.
Oh, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is the same thing as a car, but it's a house, house, not a condo, a house. But again, I didn't have the $30,000 because I was making sure that I can pay, pay the mortgage, pay the, living life. So, hindsight, and that market comes every 40 years, it's statistically, that's what, those big hits. If I'm still around, dude, I'm gonna run 100 miles per hour. I'm gonna go out there and raise a few $1 billion and have a $1 trillion fund. You know what I mean? Because you're prepared now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw the people who were prepared. They killed it. They built insane generational wealth. Because success is when opportunity matches preparedness. You gotta be prepared, and when it pops up, you act on it quick because you've been waiting for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was not prepared. For me, it was big eyes and kind of like, what's going on? What, like, is that really selling for $3,000? Like, it's just a shock. This next round, which I don't think we're gonna have it anytime soon, but if it does come again, dude, it's a different game. Selling all these properties. So I was blessed to have a foreclosure account, a bank foreclosure. That they call them REO accounts. So I would sell them for Chase and other banks.
Mm.
And fairly quickly, I saw that the money was on the investor space.
Mm.
I was selling these properties. Guys were flipping them. They're buying them for 30, selling them for 150. And I saw the money to be made. I saw the wealth there. And now I've always loved real estate. So that's where I started getting in the game.
Mm.
And started flipping. Gosh, I think that might have been like 2009, right around there.
Oh, wow.
And for many years, I operated as a one-man show. I did the acquisitions. I relist the properties because I was licensed. Managed the projects because I knew a few GCs. Did very well because you're lean. There's very little overhead. I did that for 7, 8, 9 years, and it came to the point where it's like, okay, my goals. What I'm currently doing, it's not going to get me to where my goals are at. So I needed to make some changes. So that's when I started scaling the company and, started bringing on talent. They really started helping me scale and grow. And a few years later, I'm right here hanging out with you guys.
Yeah. What were some of the lessons that you learned becoming a business operator? Because when you first get into business, you're not taught these things in school. You don't know how to run cash flow or know your financial statements or understand, the basics of operations. And then, you go from being a one-man show. Like, how does that translate into running a team?
Sure. So education is great because you learn a lot of stuff, but you're taught to be an employee, to be a great accountant or attorney. They don't tell you that you really should learn to hire good attorneys or good accountants. And that's a mind shift. That's a game changer. So I studied finance, so it was great because I understood, balance sheets and P&Ls and, cash flow analysis, like all that stuff. I had to study it, which was a blessing. It kind of helps you out. However, realistically, a good mentor would say, make sure you hire a good CPA that can do that. That's something you don't want to exchange your time for money. It's like pay for that, the whole journey, it's I love it because where I'm at, where I'm heading to, it's now a personal development, personal satisfaction. The legacy thing kicks in. It's like, what are my kids and grandkids are going to look back? How did Grandpa Memo do? The stuff he left us behind. So super important. That's really helped me out. It's adding talent, team players that are way better than you. that come into the table, and now they bring in their systems, their network, their GCs, their softwares, and
Yeah.
all these different things that they have from their experience, and now you plug into that system, and that multiplies you. It gets you farther faster. You start collapsing time. So if your business naturally would have got you 10 years there, now if you hire a few key players, now that shrinks it down to 2 to 3 years. So that's a great value of money. Like you're making a ton of money by collapsing time. So that's super important. Bringing on talent. That really it moves you forward. So no, I love it. It's always exciting. It's always changing. Our economy is always like every 6-7 months. It's always changing. The dynamics are always different.
Yeah. So what were some of the mistakes that you made with bringing talent on?
Definitely not going bigger faster.
Really?
I like to keep things and it's the scarcity mindset. It's like, hey, I don't want to be wiped out by a bad market, so I don't want to have a big exposure. But on contrary, the opposites, it's like if you're big enough, you can ride any downshift, if properly, positioned. Versus if you're a small guy, it probably will wipe you out a bad market. So you start really understanding those dynamics, and I've always had somewhat of an abundance mentality. Like there's so much business out there for all of us. Like even if you're my neighbor, dude, there's still plenty of business that you and I can do. And our business won't even scratch the surface, like there's way too much. So the scarcity, a lot of it's brought, maybe the parents, because, financially they're always working hard, or maybe it's the school systems, that teach you that whole scarcity. It's but that's something that it's important to reprogram yourself, get that stuff out, get good stuff in, listen to good audible books, all that stuff, good conversations. It really starts changing that paradigm, of what's how to approach life. So, but yeah.
Where did you feel like you developed most of your mindset, and like where did the biggest shift in your life happen to create that abundance mentality? Because you sound like you were raised poor, similar to most of us.
Yeah. I think, well, one, I think it's the hunger in you, right? You get a certain hunger, a certain appetite because the lack of, right? And for me, it was a little bit misguided because I didn't have the mentors. So for me, validation was having, I think I was like 17 or 18. I had like 6-7 cars, Beamer, a Benz, a Porsche, everything in the driveway. And for me, I thought that was self-validation because, I have a Porsche and I have a Mercedes. Dude, they're all depreciating assets. Like they are not good investments, dude. You lost money by doing that, right? It's like, but I didn't have the mentors. Someone should have told me, go buy a 2-unit or a 4-unit FHA. I mean, like it's just that lack of resources. But the blessing there though is that you have the appetite, because you have to work harder. You don't have that comfort of falling and saying, hey, don't worry, my dad would take care of me, or I got it, or, that's a blessing that pays many times over. It's hard to get that. So, no, I love it. Yeah. And that obviously dictates your life, good, my parents in their capacity always motivated us, like my mom, she's 75 right now. And, she's studying for a chemistry test, her final, right?
What?
And I'm like, Mom, you're not going to use chemistry. I mean? But for her, she's driven. She needs to go to school, I mean? She needs to do something, she accomplish something else, So the example was always given there, to their best of their ability, and I really appreciate that. And you always want to kind of make sure you're expanding that vision, and one is bringing on the right people in your company and your team, because then it really amplifies your vision of what's possible, And for me, that was probably one of my other big thing, that I thought too small. And people, as the years go by, that's when you hear that very commonly. It's like I should have thought bigger earlier. Because once you start figuring out, it's all the same. If you buy a house, or if you buy a 100-unit building, it's still the same escrow. Yeah, it takes a little bit more on financing, whatever, but it's not that much harder. You got two brokers. I mean, the process is very similar, but the mental part, it's like, how am I going to raise $60 million? It's just a mind shift thing,
You got to grow another skill set, and then you got to get different mentors. It's
Correct.
very
You have to
similar.
be in that space, that environment,
Yeah.
but not thinking big enough. That's definitely something that I encourage everybody. It's like set very big, sexy goals, because they're very attainable. Like the only limitations are the ones, that story you're telling yourself in the head, So you have to be very conscious of that story, because that's your limitations,
Mm.
So you got to reprogram that story, make sure it's, empowering you versus, limiting you. So
How do you,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you balance these big goals so that it's just not like you always pumping up your chest and expanding your ego and doing it for external validation, but more so this is, your God-given talents and abilities, using it to the highest potential that it possibly can. Like, how do you not get caught up in what everybody else thinks of you?
Yeah, no, definitely. So the ego part, that's huge, because in our industry, we know egos are always rampant, right? And especially when it comes to like retail real estate, that's even a lot more, but I think when you get the more, the death card, it's the great equalizer. We're all gonna die, right? And when you start keeping it very simple, it's like, okay, I'm not taking any money with me. I'll leave it behind and take care of my children and the grandchildren. But when you keep it simple, it's like, well, money's kind of worth is to magnify your experiences with your loved ones, right? So you really start valuing, it's okay, well, what really matters, right? Time with my kids, with the spouse, with my loved ones, family members, whatever that is, partners, whoever. Um, you know, and that's kind of, it changes it, where it's like, it's no longer about, driving a Rolls Royce, um, it's now kind of like, hey, can I build a house for an orphanage for 100 kids in Latin America, South America, somewhere, right?
Sure.
Mhm.
Like that for me, like for me, I learned that the way I function, I'm more likely to do something for other people than myself, because you just have accountability, and I think that's more of a moving thing. Once you hit a certain point in wealth, you really want to go incognito. You want to hide, because you become a target. People. There's always some crazy attorney, some crazy person that says, you owe me this for whatever reason, or you're doing well, or I see this because you own this, and it's you come a point where you're like, I don't want to be known.
Mhm.
I want to be, the silent guy that no one knows about.
Oh,
Dang. Yeah.
that makes a whole lot of sense why he's just like chilling in the
Yeah.
back of
Right.
the room.
So, do you have a certain, like, at what point where will you be that guy?
I think when it comes to goals and money, I like to keep it low key off the bat. Like, I don't use social media much. Like, I'm very kind of low key off the bat, and I've always kind of functioned that way. Like you know, have your actions speak for yourself. Like who you are, what you do, what you accomplish. Versus saying it. Saying it just very little validation. Your actions louder than words, 100%. But I think with time, like things start shifting, goals start shifting. Um, now like some of the stuff my projects now are starting to look like kind of more like fun projects, right? Stuff that I want to say, hey, this is a legacy project that can leave my kids. That's kind of cool, right? So it's just part of personal development. You get to different stages in life, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit? I hate to like make this sound like, oh man, this is an interview, but I'm like, what about you is like, what trait about you makes you exceptional in the space that you operate in? Like, what is your superpower that people would be like, yeah, that's what Memo is super good at, and that's why he's super successful or whatever?
Good question. I like to keep it very simple. Like deals have to be win-win. If you're not winning, it's not gonna last long. If I'm not winning or if you're not winning, it may be a transactional. It's not going to be a relationship.
Mhm.
If you're always winning, you're going to come back to me and I'm going to make more money. It's a win-win. You're taken care of. I'm taken care of. We're both growing. So I've always been kind of in the belief where it's, you got to take care of those people because they're taking care of you. Like my team members, they make pretty good income. And I like that because they're taking care of me. They're building the company. And in essence, I want to support them, So I think when you keep it very simple, take care of who, of your loved ones, of who build you, like make sure they're taken care of. And then, just if you operate out of a space of, of abundance, of just gratitude, if it's a win-win, it's just success is a byproduct, it's going to naturally just happen, and I like to be in that space because when you're not in that space, things go sour, relationships go sour. Yeah, you made 100K on that deal, but you're never going to get that relationship is done. You know what I mean, it's like you never took care of them. Like it's just, so yeah, keeping it very simple,
I think that's like the number one thing that sets you apart from other business operators. Just like you think very abundantly, and that's the main trait about you and your company and why you guys are successful.
I'm not sure exactly if there's one specific one, but I know that's, one of our fundamentals, across everyone in the company. We're very team oriented. We're supporting each other's, we're there to carry each other's weight in case of something happens. And I think we have a good team culture, that's really important because that allows us to do what we do,
Yeah. You mentioned legacy projects for your kids and legacy in general. What kind of legacy do you want to leave, and like what kind of projects?
Sure. So, I got two kids, a son and a daughter, and I definitely don't want to carry my limiting belief or my upbringing luggage to them. So it's a balancing act. You want to empower them so they don't have these limitations, mental limitations. However, you want to instill a hunger, a drive for personal development, self-actualization, of being, fruitful, taking advantage of their talents that God gives you, and that's where things get really fun because, if your bases are taken care of, then you should really move forward at a faster pace. Now instead of, we're focusing on trying to get a Centra, now you're like, how can I build, schools or, clean drinking water and wells, like it just really starts opening things on how you become a better person and give back to humanity. So, one of my focuses that I'm trying to figure out this year is what charity my family will identify with, that we can really say, hey, we as a Cardona believe in giving to this charity and not just giving money, but going out there and figuring out, hey, who's the local mayor? And, what do we need to do in order to get, let's say, an orphanage set up? And what's the cost? And then, how can we subsidize it? Is there any government? Like, literally not just throwing money at it and hoping half of it gets to it. It's being active about it, making it something where it's a family value, right? So, we're in the process of kind of figuring that out. The conversations are always fun and exciting, I think that's kind of more of the rewarding, makes you feel good at, it's like, okay, I'm helping someone out at my capacity. When it comes to, the real estate side, there's the different companies. I'm not sure which one they'll pick up or if they run all of them or where that's going to be at. It's something that I've done and hopefully they can pick up and run with it, but, cool stuff aside from like the multifamily holdings and like all this the real estate stuff that we do, there's I really would like to add value to a castle in Spain.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot. There's you can buy a lot of them fairly reasonable. I think that $3 to $10 million you can pick one up. And because they're 1,000-year-old structures.
So is that like? What kind of, for $3 million, is it like renovated or is it like wrecked?
Stone walls that are 1,000-year-old. Yeah, stone walls that are 1,000-year-old. It's like a fortress. No plumbing, no electricity, nothing. It's. But you get like maybe 100 acres of land, right? So my angle on this is like, okay, so I'm gonna, put a little small 7-8 story building. Make sure that JW Marriott or a Hyatt will do all the management. So I make sure it meets the. A nice spa, a Michelin restaurant, where it's like, hey, we're going to go to the castle, the Cardona Castle, and stay there for the weekend. There's a vineyard there. There's horses, phenomenal, amenities, the spa, hotels, maybe 400 a night, that kind of caliber. Uh, and, and have that pay the project, pay for the project, right? I figure in today's numbers, that's probably about a $10-12 million deal, and for hospitality with the cap rates, it totally pencils out, but for me, it's like, if the hotel's paying for the castle and my kids don't have to worry about debt service, and, we get a legacy asset, it's kind of cool. Your grandchildren are like,
So you would
my
build
castle.
on the same 100 acres, you would build a hotel, or
Yeah, you would want to.
or you would convert.
There's a few of them that operate as bed and breakfasts, when you run the numbers, I don't know if it would cash flow enough to cover, the debt and everything, so, and it's very specific. Who knows how it's going to look, once we find it, whatever that looks like, but something like that just kind of moves my wheels, right? It's something that's like it's not flipping, because I would keep it, or burying a castle, right?
Yeah, right.
Dang, cash flow castle.
Yeah. But it'd be cool. It's like, dude, you guys go for the summer to Spain and stay there. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that great conversation?
Oh, that'd be
to have,
crazy,
right?
staying at a castle.
Yeah, like to go hang out there for a week or two, or the summer, or whatever,
So would you renovate the actual castle as well?
I would put our quarters, our home,
Okay,
as the primary, and then obviously the the corridor, the entrance would be the lobby, whatever, so it's picturesque and everything, but there would be the quarters of our family that
inside
it's off
the
limits,
castle.
yeah, it's off limits for it's our
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
but have that the rental doors, the hotel nights, the actual rooms, have them pay for the
pay for the whole thing.
the whole thing, yeah.
So how many castles have you already looked
No,
at?
I've done a bunch of research, but I believe this is on my 5+ year business plan. So my first 5 years, it's not in my 5-year plan, because that's a hobby, Yeah, it's a business. It pencils out, but it's not a priority, right?
Yeah.
So that's on year 5+, and it's something I want to do. There's just cool stuff like that, right?
That's pretty awesome.
Under 10-year.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, because dude, at my age, I'm not trying to, I want to do it when I'm still have, some youth to go ride horses and, some
Yeah,
quads
right.
on there and, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely,
Dang. What about an island? Do you think you'd ever buy an island?
No, you know what? I've never been an island person. I have a few buddies that are all about, same thing with islands. You could buy them for about $3-4 million,
A nice one, really nice one.
Yeah.
Aren't there ones for like
Yeah,
$10,000?
yeah, $800K. And,
No, less than that.
yeah, they're like 6 months, it's underwater.
You got these little,
Yeah.
these little junky islands.
Like 2 palm trees. Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. No, it's not about island. For me, I like Spain. I like the country.
Okay.
It's really cool, the culture. So for me, that works. But again, this is our fun dreams, right? This is our hobby, right?
Yeah.
This is I'm not a baseball player. Like for me, it's real estate and money, right? That's my hobby. That's my sport, right? So, that's what keeps me busy.
Dang. So we were talking in the car, and you were sharing with us, like, basically how do you it was like a microdose of how do you raise your kids in terms of like transacting books to spending money on the credit card, but it's like what's your philosophy in terms of raising your kids? Did you start off with one before you were in business, and then how did it develop over time?
Sure. So, parenthood and marriage, they're, I really think finances and family, you really should have like a good year in high school where you focus on that. Like, where it's not, you're not learning algebra or trig or whatever. Like, yeah, you need it, but you really need a good year of like basic finance fundamentals, how to balance, your finances, how to cover, just the basics of a relationship, family formation, parenting, the good, the bad, the exposure, the child, like everything. At the end of the day, we're all going to go down that path. And I truly believe that should be covered. And unfortunately it doesn't. So I'm not a pro, I do have some years of experience where I'm always trying to learn, being a parent, it's our conversation was because, my kids were using, their credit card and I said, hey, I need you to get this book covered, read this book, before you use the credit card again, go to Audible, download the book, and 4 hours later, you can use a credit card, and they're very important books, that, if I would have had these books given to me, like I read most of these books in my 20s and 30s, but if someone would have given it to me at 12, 13, it's just a game changer. Like you're 10 years ahead of the game, So, I definitely want to empower my kids. It's not easy because, the world's constantly changing. At the end of the day, you want to keep it where it's like they're good individuals. They're giving. They understand the basics of gratitude and paying it forward and helping and a huge amount of ambition. Because with the ambition and success, the responsibility kicks in. Because now, if you've been able to amass a certain amount of wealth, it's your responsibility to do right with it, which I believe, that's it's a greater way to impact. So that's kind of cool. But it's not easy though, because, kids are their own individual selves and you never know how they're going to turn out,
Yeah, right.
You were sharing with me how your son is 17. How old is your
daughter's 15, son, turns 17 next month.
Son is 17.
Yeah, he's 16 right now.
So it's like your business journey started in 2004. So if I were to rewind the clock and bring it back, it's like your son was basically raised through the upbringing of you building your business and figuring out all these different things while balancing raising a child. So can you tell me a little bit about, how did you balance all of that? Like, what did your life look like in those mid to late 2000s when you had like a newborn kid, and then you got another newborn kid, and then you also had a growing business, and now you're like, you got like this monster of an operation down in San Diego. So like, how did parenting evolve?
So when my son was born, I still had I was in real estate, but I was still I still owned the payday loan, check cashing, the financial services. And I remember taking my kid. He was maybe like about 6-9 months. I remember taking him to my corporate office, where where I worked out of, and I remember thinking like, I don't want to leave this business to them. Like, I don't like this business. It's great financially. As a business owner, your ROI is ridiculous if you understand finance. But I wouldn't want my kid in this space. So it's part of the your personal development. It's like, okay, what does this mean now that I have a kid? What do I want to leave behind to them, or how do I want to raise them? It's an awesome accountability because you have people looking at you, your kids. If you do, or if you don't do, or if you say, or if you don't say, they're still looking at you, and during, we all have seasons, where, when my wife had our two kids, she stayed at home for about 5-6 years, while the kids kind of got up to preschool age. And at that point in my life, it was about being a hunter. Like, I was a strong driver, like, you don't have a choice. You got to provide for your wife and kids. You got to go out there and hunt every single day. And those years I remember very well. We would meet at 6 a.m. at the Keller Williams office, at that real estate office, because, it was, I just grinded. You had to grind it out. And, and then there came a point where, they got a little bit older, they got into school, and then my priorities slightly changed. Now it's like, I want to be at all my kids' school events. That's my priority, being a room dad, going to every field trip, whichever I can, so, luckily by that point, my wife got back into the mortgage business. So she was operating, and it was more kind of like, a team, she would go, I would go, but we always prioritize, our memories with our kids. Right. So now that they're, 15 and 16, they're their own individuals. They have a social life that's super packed. Like, I'm just kind of more like an ATM, and it's kind of like, it's a blessing because I'm a source of I'm a resource place for them. They come and we have great conversations about everything, about family, dating, money, profession, school, college, all that stuff. And it's just different conversations, and, my kid asking me about, just deeper stuff, which is, for me, it gives me a certain peace that's like, you know what, my efforts starting to pay off, like they're good kids. But everything is work that was put into them,
That's
so
awesome,
yeah.
man.
So you have to put the work in, and I'm not saying I'm perfect because I'm far from, and I've messed up in many different spaces that I could have done better. but it's a journey, and you kind of have to figure it out, and if most people aren't taught it, so if you have the capacity to spend some time and effort trying to make it better, get counseling. Marriage counseling is so important, to constantly invest time and effort, same thing with your kids, making sure that, that the content that they're digesting is the content you want them to digest, right? Like you can't shut them off out of the world, because then, their ignorance kicks in and they're not competitive. You want to say, hey, we got to make sure you got good stuff coming in your head. Yeah, you can listen to the other funny stuff, TikTok stuff, but make sure you get some good mentors in your brain, dominant figures, females and so forth that, you can look up to. So, the whole juggle between family, business, there's definitely never a balance. I think that's a false pretense. Like you're never going to have balance, sometimes both of them run at 100%. Sometimes both of them are on chill. Everything's smooth, on cruise control, and it's good. And then the seasons too, there's times where you really have to double down, and other times where, you're kind of like on cruise control. And you're like, hey, I'm okay right now. So, I think the important thing there is just appreciating the moment, because that will be gone, when they're 5, when they're 8, when they're 15, and that's not coming back. So, that's, I think, the most important thing there.
I think it's awesome that your kids, ask you these deep questions, and they feel like they have a good enough relationship with you that they can trust you with these thoughts.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's like your investment, as you had raised them from little kids up until, preteens to teens to, now being their own individual. Yeah. It's like you want them to come back to you even when they're 30s with their own families, and, opt to spend that time with you.
Definitely. And I would hope to be a mentor for them and their kids and, their spouses, and set an example. It's where it's like, hey, let's level up, don't settle for par. Don't just cruise along, let's, if you're going to be a spouse, a father, a parent, let's really, let's really, step it up, spend some training, get some education, put an effort into it. It's a blessing when you have that accountability. Not everybody has a parent. Not everybody has that person to keep them accountable. Yeah. But yeah, I plan to keep them accountable. I mean, for free. I'm not going to charge them coaching.
That's awesome. That's funny. Would you be able to tell us about your wife? And I know you said that you had known her your whole life.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So she was my neighbor. So we grew up in the same street. She grew up a few doors down. So we pretty much, we're 5 years apart. So we never dated when we were young, because obviously 5 years when you're young, it's like 5 and 10 and 10, 15 are way different years,
Yeah.
But we started dating once we were in our 20s. I was already in college, kind of wrapping up. She was already starting college. We had similar infrastructure. We went to the same church, our families knew each other, once, in your 20s now, she was a grown woman, and, I was single. So we hit it off. We had a lot of things. Personalities were apples and oranges, way different than me. She was very social, outgoing, very vocal, and I'm more reserved, analytical, driver type of personality. So we're very different personality wise, but our insides, our essence are very similar. Faith, family, that kind of stuff,
Core values.
Yep.
Matching.
Yeah.
Was there ever any friction with your like ambitious goals and what she wanted?
I wouldn't say friction, but it's an effort. You have to figure out how to communicate and see what really is important, right? What's a value? Is it a new car? What's the meaning behind it? Like, maybe you do need a new car, or what purchases you make, how you run your household finances, your trips, vacations, all that stuff, where the kids go to school, like all that stuff really does make a difference. And you're never going to be eye to eye with that stuff. So you kind of have to figure out what fights to fight, You don't want to fight all of them, because you'll be miserable, You want to pick them and say, hey, this is important for this reason, and I'm gonna hold on to this one because of this and that. I hope you can respect that. And sometimes they're patient and understand it. Other times they're like, I don't agree, So it's part of being married. You're two individuals and you're trying to figure it out, And I don't want to say it's a marriage is easy, because it's effort. You have to put an effort. Kind of like today, one of the key takeaways, it's, what they said. If you run your business, like, how would your family look like if you ran it like how you run your business, and vice versa? How would your business look if it looked like how you ran your family, right? And a lot of people neglect their family because they're too busy working, and vice versa. Sometimes, you're too busy with the family that you neglect your business.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at it that way, it really starts changing your paradigm. Like, oh shoot,
Dang, dude, that's big.
I really need to spend time with my family. Like we started like, do I have level 10 meetings with them? No. Like, do I go and kind of like write down goals and keep accountability? Like, P&Ls, all that stuff. Like, no. Like, I run my stuff, but it's kind of like I don't share it with the kids. So when you start looking at all these things, it's like, dude, there's a lot of room there for growth. And you have to put that effort in. I mean, if you want success in a family or relationships, you have to put the effort in. And it's. I'm not preaching. I'm not saying that that I'm the guy that knows the answers, that has the answers. I'm far from it. But it's just my experience, what I see, what I hear. It's like, dude, it's you have to put some effort into everything.
Yeah. You probably got a lot of answers in terms of if you were to implement stuff inside your business to the way that you ran your family. Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
What are some things that you think if you had implemented from your family into your business would be good?
Oh, that's a good question.
Dude, that's the reverse now.
Yeah. From family to business. I implement quite a bit. We do have a lot of, once a month, the team will get together. We do a team building activity, cornhole or bowling or, something, just build, it's team building. It's working as a team. So it's just a great way to get to know each other. We do miniature golf. So we have a very big family, and they're very, always active. There's always a party here or there. Someone's turning something, and there's always somebody getting married or a baptism. There's always something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a lot of parties. So that culture, that warmth of a family. I think we do that quite a bit when it comes to the business side. So I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I definitely need to dig deeper on that one. That's a very good question. Yeah. What I lack as a person, I'm very low emotion. Like very low emotions, and I'm always conscious about it with my team and the company, because a considerate person might go in there and say, "Hey, how do you feel?" Or "How did this make you feel?" Like those emotion stuff. For me, I don't function that way. Did it zero out? Like for me, it's all numbers, and it's hard because I'm at something that's like, well, hold on, how am I supposed to respond here? That's a good point. That there's certain things there that with time and looking at other people, how they function, their teams, their companies. You're like, oh wow, I really need to start spending some time, being more in touch with my emotions and
yeah. Ren was talking about with his how to be like a sales manager, and one of the things that he brought up was vulnerability.
Yeah,
and that really had me thinking like, wow, like I never really do that, especially like so the other day, I run weekly goal meetings with everyone, and it's like personal goals. And one of the girls that I run the meeting for, she like was not excited to be there, and it had been because she wasn't completing the task that she needed to do to fulfill her personal goals. And I don't really know why I said this, but I was like, hey, just so you know, like that feeling you feel of like guilt for not doing the things you said you were gonna do, like I feel that a lot of times too, and I dread going to these meetings as well. So I feel your pain.
Awesome. Yeah.
And like she felt really relieved, and I don't know why I did it, but like if I could just do more of that, that would be like
that's an awesome skill.
Yeah.
And that's a life skill actually, because that goes across with your kids, with your spouse, with business, everything. Yeah, definitely. No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I love Rent. He has the guy has a great head on his shoulder. Like I've heard him speak a lot about his sales, his coaching, all that stuff. He's phenomenal. That guy's awesome.
Yeah. I feel like vulnerability is one of those things that you got to rip the band-aid off and just jump into the deep end with, because it's even more painful to ease yourself into being vulnerable rather than just spill your heart out on the table, you know?
And I think the big thing is it shows you're human.
Yeah.
There's a human aspect to it. If you can associate, if you can bond with someone on a human level, it's huge. That's the best way to build rapport. Immediately, you're like, oh, that's my buddy. I got you, dude. I hear you. I like me too. You know.
Yeah.
It's a great way. That's a good life skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today, during the presentation, I was the person that gave the presentation right before lunch inside our room, and I wasn't planning on being super vulnerable with the entire group. I was just gonna be like, yeah, the end of last year was hard. I mean, like, it's hard for everybody because you got the holidays, you got the Thanksgiving, you got the Christmas, and you got all the things with your church, or you got all these things with your friends. And it's just like you're just exhausted, tired. I'm like, yeah, that's good. But I was like, I don't think that's good enough. I was like, how can we go even deeper? I was like, hey, 2 years ago, we basically had a super failing business, $10,000 plus a month, accumulating on the credit cards, and like I was commingling funds between this business and that business, and I was just like, I don't know how to run a business, and I'm just here in the car telling with Kenny, I'm just like, dude, I'm failing you, I'm letting you down, and I'm super sorry, and everything that you had seen on the surface and what you thought of me is not what it seems, and I'm sorry that, you know, maybe I wasn't as good at communicating those things early on, and we could have figured those things out together, but I just didn't communicate. I just didn't know how to tell you. And then now it's like, oh, the weight of all the decisions that we made was basically collapsing on us, but thankfully it wasn't too late. We're still business partners to this day, and we're still building this thing, and he's still super passionate about being here to figure out and helping me build out my dream, as I'm helping him build out his dreams.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's awesome. And I think that journey is the blessing, dude. I think, you know, when you look back at it and you're like, dude, the struggles, you know, the struggle's real, bro. You know, I've been broke so many times. It's like, you know, like, trust me, dude. It's a blessing to be able to look back and say, ha ha ha, you know, remember that one time, you know, remember that time, you know, it's just, but it makes the journey so much better, you know, especially when you do it with friends. You're like, dude, we figured it out, we pulled it together, we grinded it out, you know, it makes us who we are, you know?
Yeah.
Do you have any business partners that like you were in the struggle with that you're still partners with today?
Recently, so normally I don't have business partners because, you know, it's a balancing act, right? It's a relationship. It's a different dynamic. And especially when it comes to real estate, if you need to liquidate, or let's say the market's coming down, you may think, hey, I need to take a loss now before it gets really bad. But your partner may say, no, let's Airbnb it. And that's where everything starts going weird, you know? And you both might be right, but they're different approaches, you know? So it's a very slippery slope when it comes to partnerships, you know? I like to have the full decision. Hey, I need to sell this because I believe it's going down, you know, or whatever, right? Or no, I'm going to Airbnb it. So I've always been very hesitant when it comes to that, but you have to vet everything, you know, you have to, you know, put the time and effort to set it up right, because when it dissolves, you know, it only gets worse, right? You know, you start out with zero, you build something, and if it's not clear how it looks like, the exit strategy, it's gonna be painful. It's gonna be a lot of headaches, the separation, because it's not clear. It's not black and white, you know. So I know there's a few people on CG that are phenomenal when it comes to partnerships, you know, that they can really kind of instruct you. But yeah, I've kind of always operated that way, you know. It's just a lot of liability for a property, and you know, that's just my personal belief, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So what was your guys' takeaway for this last event?
I think like my biggest takeaway was understanding the reason why we're in this business. Because real estate is this vehicle to make a lot of money and build a lot of wealth. But if you got to have a purpose and a vision beyond just making money and building wealth for yourself and your own selfish ambition. And I was looking for what is my bigger thing beyond the selfish ambition, because honestly, don't need more than $50,000 a year to live a decent life in Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Wow.
I live in a fourplex, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like,
Uh-huh.
and we have 3,400 square foot office building. I don't really want a big house because that heating bill, I can't imagine, you know, that electric bill
Yeah,
is not
yeah.
pretty.
Utilities, yep.
So I know the experience of having a big house. And I was like, dang, I just want a simple life. But honestly, like, even if you want a simple life, if you're gifted with gifts and talents that the Lord has provided in order for you to leverage, maximize, and move the kingdom forward. I was talking to our one friend, our one friend Ajay,
Mhm.
and he was like, "Yo, I want to be the type of person that puts a dent in hell." You know, I was like, "Damn, I love that attitude. I love that mindset." And I just happened to talk to the right guy at the right time, and he just also happened to be a brother.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, "Dang, this
Yeah.
guy's right." And like, I'm fired back up to go give it my best shot. I'm working for God, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm working for my brothers.
Uh-huh.
We brought somebody into our company this year as our transaction coordinator, and she came to our Monday Life group, and she was looking for a transition in her career from, you know, working in the call center. And we were like, hey, why don't you join us to be our transaction coordinator? I had no plan. We had no training. It was actually a disaster storm, like, waiting to happen.
Sure.
But the time that we spent in that 6-7 months with her, building that relationship, seeing her every single day, her seeing us read our Bibles, and us like talking the way that we talk, and, you know, living the way that we lived, she was inspired to, you know, follow Christ, and she
Yeah.
gave her life to Christ, and now she's serving as the worship leader at our church.
right
I'm
on.
like, what the
Yeah,
heck?
that's cool.
This girl,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's
You
awesome.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think so as you develop and grow, and you know, life experience changes you, you know, you know, marriage, kids, you know, health, everything, you know, those goals change. And lifestyle too, you know, the life
Yeah.
creep, you know, like
Yeah.
when you're starting out, it's a blessing. It's smart if you're able to keep it simple and then, you know, accumulate wealth, right? Most people go with the Joneses and kind of, you know, as they make more money, they spend more money. But you know, there'll come a point where, let's say if you have 4 kids, you know, it's like, we need to get a yard, we need to get, you know, a 3-4 bedroom house, you know, like, this isn't going to work for us, you know. So which is, it's great, it's change. You have to,
Yeah.
in business especially, but in life, you have to embrace change. You have to acknowledge it, you have to embrace it, you have to be excited about it. Most people are afraid of it, and it's very limiting, because, you know, you hide your head under the sand, right? And if you can really embrace change, it catapults you in business. You really get to, you know, see life for what it is. You know, go out there and, you know, and see, you know, the beauty of cultures and the world, and, you know, other people. You know, the architecture, the cities.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta run with it. You know.
Yeah. But I just thought about how, man, if I could make $1 million in profit through my business, and I'm able to give half of that away, the way that my friend Ajay was telling me about it was like, you could be a missionary working for $40,000 or less, maybe $30,000. Call it $30,000. You're one person in the mission field making an impact. What if you made $300,000? You're able to get 10 missionaries who don't have the same skill set as you, but they have an even better skill set in evangelism than you.
Yeah, definitely. I had that when I was in my 20s. You know, I was very active in my church, and you know, volunteering and giving, and, you know, yeah, literally 7 days a week I was doing something. You know, I was very, very busy there. And me being a business person since I was a kid, you know, you always monetize and kind of look at a business approach. So I remember thinking, it's like, dude, I'm you know, I'm in these 4 organizations, and I'm, you know, doing all these things, and I want to do more, but I can't, because I'm already at capacity. And the business voice is like, Memo, like, you're approaching it wrong. You know, like, yes, you can give your time, you know, for others, but maybe you can do a lot more by building wealth, and, you know, businesses, and accumulating wealth, where it's easier to give $5-10 million to a charity or to a group, and change hundreds of lives, you know, versus you switching out your Saturdays and Sundays, doing on an hourly basis, the work. Now, it doesn't mean that it means less, it just means that you're leveraging, your ability to make money,
Yeah.
and that's where I figured like I need to go make money. Like I could do so much more. If you're making 5 million a year, $1 million a year, it's not gonna break you.
Yeah.
You'll probably need the write off. So when it's a different level to get. You have to think that way. You have to think so big where it's now the possibilities are just endless. It becomes a possibility.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the fun part of it. That's for me that's exciting. It's like, dude, how can we do those big changes? It's no longer like just sending money. Now it's like build something that's going to change something for good, way past your life. This thing's going to keep on going after you pass here. So that, dude, I'm all about it, dude. That's super exciting, dude.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. Just find that inspiration that I truly needed, and just getting that answer. Because I told you, I forgot. I felt like I knew it a couple years ago, but I didn't firmly know it in my heart, and that's why I let go of it, because people were trying to tell me, or not trying to tell me, but they were just like, "Why are we doing this?" And it's just like, well, you only need this much in order to live. You only need this much, or I need this much, and $500,000 business can give us all everything that we need in our life. But I'm like, that's not the point of our life, is
Correct.
to get everything that we need.
Correct.
It's like, how do we maximize what we have in front of us in order to put a dent in hell, or move the kingdom forward, however you want to say it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great to have those conversations with like-minded people. Yeah. I mean, it's when you gather around and your buddies are having these conversations, you're in the right spot.
Yeah.
Because they're going to propel you, you're going to propel them, and more than likely you will hit it. Because that's where you're at. That's your frequency. That's where you're at. Functioning at.
What about you, Josh?
I think the biggest one was the vulnerability, and that's definitely the deepest one. I think some other things. So along with the vulnerability is just checking in with the people on like a personal level, which I need to like figure out how to balance that, because I feel like I could talk all day about just like it's good to check in with people, but it's not good to like spend the entire workday checking in with people.
Yeah.
You gotta do after hours when you're driving home, Josh.
Yeah. So figure that out. And then so Annie, one of the issues I brought up was I don't feel like our level 10 meetings are that productive a lot of times.
Okay.
And I wasn't really sure why. And I forget exactly what Annie said, but it was basically like, and I think I heard this in a previous CG, but it's like, if a meeting takes an hour, you need to prep for an hour. And then someone also brought up, if you're gonna bring an issue to the group, you need to bring a solution as well.
Oh, okay.
And I was like,
yeah,
I was like, man, if everyone went into this meeting knowing what they want to talk about and they had a solution, then our meetings would be way better.
Correct.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, because sometimes we just sit there frustrated at the issues. Like, we don't have a solution.
Yeah.
No, definitely. That's huge. And I heard Gary Harper. Sharper Image. Sharper
Solutions.
Sorry.
Solution, right. Solution.
That's the camera company.
Gary talked about that today too, and it's a game changer to your business when you can identify that and implement that, right? Your productivity goes out the roof. Everyone feels that they're heard, and they're contributing to the resolution to items. It's super important. Like, you have to function that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are your goals and aspirations in business, like, going forward, and like, how do you tie that with your life? Because you've accomplished a whole lot. Why do you continue to still be hungry?
There's a couple of reasons, obviously, you do want to, just as you scale your business, add more zeros to it, to what the operations, what your exposure is, there's levels to wealth, and you start seeing that, a guy who has $5 or $10 million is a lot different than that guy making 200 million,
Yeah.
and a lot different than a guy with, $5 billion or 2 billion or whatever,
Hmm.
Yeah, and you'll notice by the yachts, you'll notice by the planes, you'll notice by, $300,000 summer vacation, right? Who can spend 300,000 on a summer vacation? A billionaire won't flinch. It's experience for him. A guy with 5 million, he probably would. He's like, that's expensive, right? So, as you start getting to these stratospheres, you start saying, okay, like, where do I want to end up at? Where's that balance between life, health, and money, and family? But the way I currently have, it's an ecosystem, it's a real estate market center where, you have the fix and flip, you got the mortgage, the brokerage, you have the, all these verticals companies that kind of go hand in hand with them. Where the objective of the next 5 years is to be in 5 different markets. So we're right now trying to get into Los Angeles and Riverside, which is the other Southern California markets. And then from there, we're going to hop over to Arizona, Phoenix, and Tucson. So pretty much what I'm doing currently in San Diego, I'm going to multiply into just the different cities. And, it's a lot easier because, the correspondence bank license is already there. The broker, if you're a broker in California, it's all of the California, right? So it's easier to move up to scale your business. But that's like the 5-year window, that's where I see that, I'm trying to scale one market center per year. And I'm excited about it. Definitely very attainable, doable, I think, I got a great team to help out and I'm always looking for talent because obviously part of growing, you got to bring on A players,
Yeah.
I love it. I enjoy what I do.
Yeah. What kind of talent are you looking for currently?
So right now we have the 2 fund managers, capital recruiters that that are being onboarded. Those hopefully are great additions. I'm hoping that they work out great. As like the nitty gritty, we're looking for an architect right now. We need an in-house architect. That's the need that we have right now. There's a sales rep for on the construction side. There's a lot of little as you scale, then there's different positions that need to get filled in. So it's just part of growth. There's always a few people that we're always looking for, and as expansion grows, there'll be maybe I'd probably be looking for more like a franchise expansion reps where someone can go in there and say, hey, I know the system that can duplicate in different markets. I can go in there, do the research, know what location the office needs to be at, who we need to recruit in that market, the personality types, the acquisition person, the operations person, So typically like a Starbucks or McDonald's has that person that, hey, I can get you into 10 different markets, that's what they specialize in. I'm sure, as you grow, these positions start popping up. So, but yeah, it's exciting. It's all part of growth,
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. We were talking in the car about your kids and how the level of ambition and drive is different because of your upbringing versus their upbringing. So how do you condition your kids moving forward into the future so that they would chase after their own ambitions or have how do you do that parenting style? I don't know.
Sure. No, that's not easy because I wouldn't want them. Obviously, you want better for them, right? So my life experience, I definitely wouldn't want them to go through that, and I had a great, happy childhood. Like there's nothing bad about it. It's all a blessing, I'm blessed with a great family. I love my brothers and sisters. My parents were a blessing, really good parents. It's just, in the financial position you're in, it is what it is. So you find your way, you have to figure out a way to get out of it. Right. For my kids, I've always been keen about making sure their network, the people around them are, someone that, that I'm comfortable with, that's really important, what schools they go to, what friends they hang out with. Those are usually their lifelong friends, and that's going to dictate the quality of life, experiences, travels, when they're at party age, that's how they're going to party, that's how they're going to go travel and study. And, those phases of life, ideally you kind of want to steer them in the better direction. There's no guarantee, accidents happen, things happen, people make dumb decisions, but if you can limit that, or open doors, it really helps out. For hunger, I think exposure is really important when you get to see what's out there. The I think they're pretty well grounded. Their feet are on the ground. Even though they're blessed to have phenomenal experiences. And I think just their essence and their heart, it's very giving, loving. Like I'll analyze my kids, and we'll go meet a family, and immediately they're talking to the 4-year-old kid. They go down to the level of a 4-year-old, and they're giving love to this kid and conversating and giving them attention. And I'm like, okay, that's a good skill. That they're at all levels giving attention to everyone here. So like I see their essence. I'm like, okay, they're good kids. In that regards, I feel comfortable with my job. But now it's kind of like I need to make sure that that their ambition, and it's not about ambition, that their self-actualization, or that they meet who they are, who they should be. And it's like Ed Milet says this a lot. It's like when it comes to your day of death, when you meet your creator, you want to make sure that when he shows you who the best version of you should have been, that you guys look the same, that you guys are the same person, right? The last thing you want to do is you show up and that person was just gazillion times better than who you became. That you left everything on the table, your health, your relationships, everything just went, you sacrifice all that stuff for other ambitions, right? So it doesn't have to be money, it doesn't have to be business. Whatever that best version of they are, that it is of them, that brings satisfaction to me. And I tell them, I tell my dad all the time, like Miha, like, you focusing on you being the best version of yourself, that's your priority. You're 15, yeah, you're a teenager, yeah, there's the boys and there's all these other things, but right now your focus is on increasing your value of your stock. A strong, happy Natalie is a strong, happy family. Like for me, if I'm a strong, happy dad, there's strong, happy kids around me, because I'm I'm working on a better version of myself. So
that's awesome.
So for me, it's like, you really have to kind of tell them and say, hey, go out there, find that, whatever truly makes you happy. Aside from that, you have to understand the game that we operate in, which is real estate, because that's going to allow you to have, let's say, if you want to paint roses, or if it's canvas painting, or if it's playing the ukulele or the guitar or whatever, I'm all good about it. But is it going to pay your bills? Is it going to provide for your future and your family? And if it's not, then you got to understand the real estate game, because that's where we operate.
Yeah.
And that's going to pay for your lifestyle. That's going to build your wealth. That's going to pay for your lifestyle. So regardless, you're going to be a real estate investor, and you have to know that space. You have to know it. You have to understand it, because that would allow you to do whatever the heck you want to do.
Yeah.
You can go on, counting, butterflies, whatever, but you are operating in that space, and that's what allows you to,
Yeah.
and not everyone sees it, or not everyone's told that. And they go, and like, being a doctor is a blessing, and that's such a vocation. But, most people like, hey, that's going to take you 15, 18 years, a few $100,000 of debt, and you're going to come out and work your butt off because it's a vocation. People need you 24/7, they don't always tell you what goes tied along with things, And for me, it's like, if you're blessed to do whatever it is, and it could be volunteering, teaching, you just give your time and effort away. You could be a great teacher, or a mentor, or a psychologist, or like, there's a zillion things you can do. But as long as your financials are taken care of, as long as your household, your monthlies, all that stuff, your future, your kids' future, it's a game changer, And they have to understand that, Tell them, you have to figure that out, Luckily, someone there to tell them this,
Yeah.
because it takes a while to, to figure it out on your own,
Yeah. I love how you kind of describe how your mind works in terms of that analytical nature, because the way that you describe your business, and it was like, it's just all numbers to me. It's like, get the emotion out of here. But then the way that you describe how you see the development inside your children, it's like you're paying attention to all of that.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't just let your kid hang out with whoever.
Yeah, correct.
Because it's like, that can ruin their life.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome, man.
And it's priorities too, And I think, if whoever has the opportunity to be a parent, it's such a cool, rewarding, it's a phase in life that if you have it, that's really cool, you know. And everything you work, you hustle, all that stuff. At the end of the day, it's so you can better their life, right? At the end of the day, that's the name of the game. If you want to have great memories with them and have them have better opportunities, and then for it to be generational, have them understand that and give it to their kids, and they have that 3 year wealth curse or whatever you want to call it, where you're broken 3 generations, not 3 years but 3 generations. That's just education. You got to teach them, hey, this is how you maintain, preserve wealth, and this is how you operate. This is off how much you can live off of, how much you got to invest, that way your kids can, to live a certain standard of life, and their kids, and they're educated, they understand the financial game, the financial game is written by the rich. And when you understand that, you learn how to play the game. When you don't, you just go with the flow and you make dumb decisions. You take on high credit card debt. You just going down this big spiral hole. But when you figure out, it's like, if I made $10 million this year, I can write off almost all of it. You got cost A, you got depreciation, you got you can donate land at a 5-to-1 multiple. You got solar farms. There was a gazillion ways where you can use the system to not pay taxes. Go buy apartment buildings with it. You can literally get rid of most of your taxable liability. But most people don't tell you that. They don't teach you that, and you have to get in there and understand that and spend time, kind of like with everything. Learn the game. But when you learn the game, you're like, dude, this is the game changer. That $6 million bill I should have paid, I bought buildings with it. Now I own buildings too, and I didn't pay taxes. So it's important to relay that through your kids, through your it's part of being a parent, I guess.
Yeah.
You have any last questions, bro?
I don't.
No. Well, thank you so much, Memo. I really appreciate
I
you
appreciate being out
podcast.
here, dude.
Yeah. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here. It's cool that we're in Florida. The weather's kind of chilly for me, but it works. It's not snow, so
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me over.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for being a great role model and a friend to us.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right.
Awesome.
This has been the Non Genius Podcast. Signing off, man.
Peace.
Bye.
We'll see you.